Still, like, this Bengals team is just on a mission. Nothing bothers Joe Burrow. When he came out of LSU, I did not like him at all.
With that, we are on episode 15 of the BVSA Sports Show. And we are pumped to have you guys here. Thank you so much for, again, tuning in. We're going to switch it up a little bit this week. Joe kind of hinted at it last week that him and I got to have a little professional development weekend at Joe's favorite theme park. And we had a really good time. It was kind of a perfect mix of having fun and getting an education, and for me, almost like respark, right? Just for those of you who don't know, been here for going on 17 years now with Bobby Valentine's. And we are so blessed to just have so much awesome education right here in the building with Frank, with Bobby, with all the guys that we've come with. And we kind of get spoiled. And for me personally, I haven't been to one of these, and it was the 20th anniversary.
Yep.
And now since I've been, talked to so many people that have gone over the last couple of years, and just how cool of experience was for them too. And so that's kind of what we're talking about just to start off today. A little bit about our experience and some of the cool things we talked about. Like I said, we had some fun. We gambled a little bit. One of us lost some money. One of us won some money. I'll let you guys guess who that was. And we tried to squeeze that in versus, when Joe was looking at me, I think, kind of sideways after we went into our, eighth coaches talk. But it was really cool, like I said, to get some of this information. So let's see. I don't really want to go in number order. We talked a lot about this, like how this was going to flow. I don't want to read off the paper. I have, again, notes. I have 6 different Google Docs up in front of me of different notes I took from these guys, so we'll get into them. But if you're here and you're following right now, comment down below if you like any of these names that we mentioned. So we've got Peter Fasty with the Red Sox. We got Steve Trimper from Stetson. Chris, I'm going to mess this up, Coach. I'm really sorry. Wojcik, I believe, from Yale. He's the pitching coach. That was a good one. Jim Penders from UConn. Scott Strickland from Georgia. And Roberto Mercado from Baltimore. What level? Do we know what level?
High A Aberdeen, which ironically enough is where our New Canaan teams go to every year. So we just watch, or I at least watched that team play last year with the 9U New Canaan. I believe Coach Matt's going this year with his team. A couple of our coaches are going. And the idea of, I don't know if players and coaches are always down the sidelines signing balls and stuff, pretty cool to go shake his hand and say, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but sorry, at Mohegan Sun last year talking about X, Y, and Z. I think
Did you give him a follow on Twitter?
No, but I'm sure you did, right?
I did. I absolutely did. Well, I did because he kind of put it out there. He said, reach out if you want the PowerPoint, because the poor guy.
So he was I don't know if you want to start there, but just I have a couple ideas to bounce off what you just said, but I guess we'll start there. It was really cool to see. We talked to and saw 6, 7, 8 different guys give a presentation, and it was so cool how different each one was in terms of content, obviously, number one, but 2, in terms of their presentation and their structure and their organization. They were all organized. They were all great. It was just really hard. It was the last one we saw, so whatever that was, Saturday morning, Roberto Mercado. To me, it felt like I was in high school again, watching a guy. He wasn't nervous, but the technology wasn't working. He was just reading off the slides word for word. So it was pretty tough when technology, this thing that we rely on so much, failed him. It was a little bit of a scramble, a little bit of a letdown. Not his fault at all, obviously. I don't even think it was his computer he was using. But to start there, it was just really cool to see how these guys prepared, how they want to present, what they really want to drive home over the course of whatever they had, 45, 50 minutes to talk to a bunch of strangers and go do it. So to me, that was really cool. I also love that a lot of these guys, obviously, for the most part, were going after high school coaches, college coaches, professional of some level coaches, and here we are, majority youth baseball, and being able to pick and choose what they say and how we relate it back to what we do and what we have here. And obviously we have the high school talent and a little bit of the college talent too, and now a couple professionals of different sports running around this place. But that idea of taking what they say and how we can relate it and register it totally differently than the guy next to us. And even you and I, our notes and our stuff, we looked at this stuff from 2 totally different angles. So in my opinion, not just because it's my favorite place around here to go to in Mohegan Sun, but the idea of going there every year, whether we see the same speakers or different speakers talk about different topics, shaking hands, you probably found 12 people that you knew right off the bat, and you made 30 new friends while you were there. 'Cause you just like to talk and shake hands and network and do the whole thing. And you're so good at it. But like that idea of there's always more for us to go see and go learn and go do. I think we got a pretty good thing going around here in terms of like the content, the people, and this. And it's so crazy to see how much more is out there and what we took away and what we can then bring back to make ourselves even better.
Yeah.
So that was my like immediate takeaway from the weekend, and not once I mentioned gambling. So
Not once. That was
We're good.
impressive. You did say it was your favorite place to be.
I didn't say, but for the for the atmosphere and the food, and let me.
I'll give you that. They do it really. I mean, I tried to find my car, and I think I walked around that circle maybe 6 times. I get it. I mean, they get you in there. They get you in there. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the first thing I told Frank was, I think everybody needs to go see it once.
Mm-hmm.
I know Frank and Bobby actually presented. I got to figure out what year that was. And they did an infield thing a couple of years ago. Just kind of going back to how spoiled we are. We've got one of those presenters right here in our building. But
Yep.
You're totally right. To look at it from different perspectives and to be able to see this college coach just go into it with so much planning and so much, because we also hear, like, we get a lot of crap, right? We're the private coaches. So the kids come and they don't love the college coaches. We get all the negativity and whatnot. So for me personally in doing this, it was so good to see these guys, how excited they were and passionate about what they were doing. And it just reminds us, like, oh yeah, that's why we're dealing with, the level of talent sometimes we're dealing with, or kind of what we're going through. So that was cool. I think, like, one of my favorite, and try to get away from reading all off my notes here, one of my favorite themes I feel like a lot of the coaches talked about was making practice harder, right? Which kind of relates to something we always talk about, like mindset, and and Joe's always about the story and whatnot. Like, I'm really, really big on mindset and just how it affects every bit of our life. And to hear these guys talk about making practice harder, again, we have to kind of tone it down. They're talking about college players versus, a 10-year-old who we also need to balance building confidence and making sure they get what we're talking about. But for every bit of how hard they wanted to make something, they talked about over-communicating, planning, being ready, getting the message so the kids knew what was happening ahead of time. They could digest it, everything, using whiteboards, things like that, really being visual, which, again, for us, kind of moving a mile a minute. And for these guys, they've usually have 6, 7 guys on a staff, where we're 2 guys. If we're lucky enough, we've got a bunch of great dads that can volunteer and know the game, or at least know where to fit in. But, to be able to take some of those things and just add to what we do, it's pretty cool. But it was just, again, to kind of feel the passion from these guys was exciting. So
Yeah, it was the learning and the new stuff, and then bringing it back to here. But it's also that reassurance of what we do, and hearing from somebody else, maybe of a higher level. It's like, oh, we do this too. Maybe a different way, a little bit of a tweak. But I feel like if there was a theme of all the speakers, it was there is no such thing as over-communicating.
Yeah.
And the levels and the layers to communicating, coach to player, coach to parents, coach to coach. Like, we talk about it all the time with our staff, like the idea of communicating and over-communicating, whether it's our schedules or it's the kids' schedules and certain clinics, and we're running this and that. And it was pretty... That was the one, I guess, consistent across the board, is that every single person said, whether it's about a fly ball between a center fielder and a right fielder, or it's the way you present your schedule and practice plan to your team, right? And everything in between was kind of wild to me, that it was just, we stress it here, and sometimes I feel like we beat it to death a little bit, but it's like, no, it's actually, like, there's no such thing in all walks of life, all career paths and stuff like that. It's just communication, and whether you're on the field or not. It was...
Yeah.
Across the board, the one thing that every person couldn't drive home enough was that everything breaks down without it. Right on cue.
On cue. So actually, just to build off that, like, one thing that you kind of just stoked in me was how Penders brought that up. And he didn't use any of those words or any of what you just described, but he still exemplified that message for me specifically, because I was a catcher my entire life. He talked about with something, the signal giving stance, number 1, and then primary, and then secondary block throw, which, again, I've been doing this for a long time. I usually do primary and secondary, right? And just to evolve that a little bit more, to talk about a signal giving stance and the little details there, and the primary stance, how you're a waiter and you're serving the pitcher. But to go back to what you were saying about the body language, he talked about in that signal giving stance, in that primary stance, having chest up, being ready, making sure you're staying there, because that you're showing everybody something with your chest out before you even said a word, before you're communicating with your posture and what you're doing, because everybody's sitting there looking at you, especially the pitcher, who a lot of times needs you to be that guy for him. So it was, really, again, going back to mindset, really, really cool. Another thing that Pender said that gets talked about a lot, we throw it around here, and I don't want to act like I know for certain anything, not saying, this is exactly what it is, just kind of working through it. And I liked what he talked about, is catchers presetting on one knee. And obviously we've seen that progress at the top levels and kind of trickling its way down now, getting some high school kids working on it. And what does that mean? And is it good? Is it not? And his opinion, don't quote me, Penders, if I don't get this wrong, okay, or if I get this wrong, was that at the pro level, maybe. Anything below that, it's just they're not athletic enough, they're not mobile enough. Presetting it makes no sense. Why would you take what needs to be the most athletic position on the field and then demobilize him and put him on the ground? But what he did then do was segue into that the receiving, the secondary stance, or just receiving the ball, and how using gravity to your advantage, right, then nullifies that a little bit. With the high pitch, we want to let that get deeper. So catchers catch that deeper, right? Let gravity kind of take that down a little bit, which was great. And then on the low pitch, go get that ball. And that's where you'll go down and you'll get on a knee late, because it makes sense to be there to reach that pitch and to, not let it keep going down and kind of keep that strike, right? But presetting it, in his opinion, really doesn't make sense for anybody below the pro level, just for anything out there. I know this. I'm on Facebook all the time and seeing different opinions on different things. We've got, like I said, kids in here. Some of our best kids. Kev, he's one of our best catchers we've ever had come through here. He swears by on it. I mean, he's a shortstop in my opinion, playing catcher like most of our guys are. But it's a hot topic. So again, that's another thing where I know I'm the cheesy guy, but if you have an opinion on it, drop it below. I'd love to hear what you guys think about. Catchers on a knee. Are you doing it? Are you presetting it? Do you see other guys doing it? Do you have questions about it? Let us know. I mean, hearing Penders talk about it in that way was really cool, and it kind of gives me some staple of where I'd like to move with what I'm talking about. So if you guys like to hear anything about it, please let us know. Short that, Camilo. And then let's see. Talk about, Peter Fasty and Matt Hyde. That was pretty cool. We didn't really get a chance to talk about that. For me, it was pretty cool because, Matt Hyde, obviously being a Yankee guy, we've got kids that come through here. Jake Frosca is one of the guys that helped me start Scouted Sports, and was just, he's a unique individual and a hell of a baseball player. He had a crazy ride, which I guess since we're here, I'm going to tell it real quick. This is for you, Jake. Darien High School, he broke his back his sophomore year. Broke sophomore, junior year, and then sophomore year. Didn't really get any burn on varsity junior year because they didn't really know him. Senior year, leads the FCIAC in 5 hitting categories. He's just the kind of kid, he got an underload bat program, totally overdid the numbers, did what he had to do, and just, he was just an animal, just a worker. And went to Suffolk and playing down there. And here I am. I just started Scouted Sports. I barely played in high school, never played in college. I have a recruiting service helping kids learn how to get into college because nobody taught me. And Jake is one of my early guys, and he lands a school that he has to pay basically nothing for. He's 15 minutes away from his siblings in Boston, and he's going to pitch, and he's going to play both ways. He ends up being the player of the conference. And I'm sitting here like, wow, this is cool. Let's do this. Let's roll. He calls me up. He's like, Coach, I got to get out of here. Like, I can't do this. Got to get out of here. So we start, just going back on the circuit again now after a year of college baseball. He's put on 35 pounds. Like, he, for me, made that switch of like, if you're really serious about this, find the weight room. Like, he proved that. Ends up, we had a showcase at Darien High, I believe, and was going to LIU Brooklyn. Deposit, all signed up, did everything in. Coaches they leave the program or get canned. I don't know what the exact situation was there. And they're like, it's just not right for Jake. So within a month, we've got to get him squared away. He goes to Sacred Heart, has a great career at Sacred Heart, talks to a bunch of pro scouts, one of them being Matt Hyde. So for me to just be sitting there after almost 17 years of IBVs, finally getting to come to Mohegan Sun, listening to a dude talk who was a major league scout who's talked to one of the kids up, it was a really cool moment for me. By the way, this whole episode is about me, just in case you guys didn't know, okay? It might be like this for the next month, so just be heads up. Unless we can get somebody else to get up here, like a Nick Savali or something like that. That's a throw out to you, Nick. One other thing, and this is more for me, I guess, than anything else, because I'm
have a tough time staying organized sometimes was the chunking of practices and how these college coaches were doing things in like 5-minute blocks, right? And just like boom, 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 getting them in, getting them out. But that was a pretty cool one.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, at the risk of reading all of these notes off to you guys, I'm going to probably cut this short. If anybody has any questions about the event or anything like that, or wants to dive into any of these notes, I'm tailoring them up so everybody can see them. I might do some other like one-off videos where I literally just read off the notes so everybody can see it and have a video of it. We'll see. But like I said, if you're still here, thank you very much, and get ready because we're about to do this is our first segment switch. I've kind of gotten in and out a couple times, but we're gonna like totally switch gears here. So Camilla, I don't know if you can put some graphics somewhere for us, like let's switch it up. Let's bring Matt in here and let's talk football.
Let's do it. You know who you got winning this weekend? Do you know who's playing this weekend?
Who I have winning this weekend? I mean, I have to say I did see a couple clips that I guess some of the Bengals guys are calling it Burrowhead.
Oh yeah.
I like. And I'm probably going to get into like lines and all that other nonsense and what it is. You know, what's he at least 3-0 against Mahomes?
The closest thing to anybody like having Mahomes' number. Small sample, but like everyone else does so poorly against them. The guy's 3-0, and
we'll see. I think Mahomes is just a ridiculous athlete. Obviously, Burrow's on the come. Talk about mindset. He's got this thing about him. He's got this aura that he just knows how to win. I mean, I don't know. But when your players are behind you and you're calling and you're in your head, you know, I think that's going to put a little bit extra on Mahomes. And that swag of Burrow is pretty intense. So,
yep.
You know, Let's go Bengals. That's for you, Lataraka.
There you go.
You want this?
Beautiful. All right, so before we get into what's to come, let's quickly run through how we got here. And not so much about the games. Obviously, we know the winners. But in terms of the 4 teams that lost, I'm looking at it right now, right? Jaguars, Giants, Bills, Cowboys, right? Those 4 teams, some more than others, have some pretty hefty questions to answer in the offseason. So to me, let's start with the 2 in the AFC that I don't think have as much to answer, right? Jaguars, they have their quarterback, they have their running back, you have your offensive weapons, defense is good, their coach probably and should win Coach of the Year, if not, Brian Dable should. Mm-hmm. This team seems fine. They seem to be set up pretty nicely in a pretty weak AFC South. The Titans seem to be going this way. Mm-hmm. The Texans are always going this way. Mm-hmm. The Colts always depends on who they have as their quarterback, which it could be a rookie. It could be a 46-year-old Tom Brady. Who knows? But you agree this Jaguars team is set, right? No worries. They'll be back next year. Trevor Lawrence got a little taste of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're going to keep getting better. There was a lot of questions about them coming in because they wanted more weapons for Trevor Lawrence, right? And they get Zay Jones and they get Christian Kirk, and everyone's like, "Oh, they paid him so much money. Like, is he that guy?" And they kind of proved like they are good. Like they're solid in that offense. They know how to make it work. Obviously, Doug Peterson is like a mastermind, a great coach. He just knows how to game plan like a game, especially on offense.
Yep.
Defense has so many good young players. After all those losing seasons, they just get all the good picks, and they've done well. Obviously, it's hard to mess those up. Top 3 every time. So, yeah, I mean, I think they'll just keep getting better. If they draft well again, I will definitely see them back in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Bills, probably even less to really talk about. Obviously, they got their quarterback. They have their weapons. Defense, I think there's a couple free agents, Jordan Poyer being one of them. He's kind of the captain of that, at least the secondary, if not the whole defense.
Yeah.
They have their coach, Sean McDermott. The teams around them in the AFC East have obviously bigger questions, like the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Patriots. Like across the board, from the quarterback on down, they have their questions. But this Bills team, there's no reason to believe they won't be right back where they were this year. Division winner, divisional round. I think the biggest question is Stephon Diggs seems pretty pissed off right now, but I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, so I think it's like because he has a great relationship with Josh Allen, and he was with Kirk Cousins before. Obviously, he wanted out of that. Kirk was, I mean, he's so up and down. Like, you never know with that team, obviously. I think he's fine. I think he's just emotional. Like, the thing with the Bills, that you're seeing it year in and year out, right? Everyone keeps putting them as the favorites at the beginning of the year, and they can't seem to get over the hump. And it's tough. Obviously, the AFC is crazy right now. The Bengals are really good. The Chiefs are really good. A lot of other teams are starting on the come up, right? The Dolphins look pretty good this year. I think they'll only get better. So, yeah, they got to find a way. They have to – something needs to change there. As crazy as it sounds, right? You think they're, like, in a great spot. Like, oh, no, they'll be right there next year. But they have to find a way to even get to the Super Bowl. They didn't even get to the championship game this year. So, I think there's some question marks. I think they're going to have to work on a couple things. I like Sean McDermott. I think he's a great dude, obviously. I don't know. I think there needs to be a little bit of a change. Obviously, I don't think they should fire him, but I don't know. One more year of this same thing, and there's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I think they have high expectations for that team. Diggs isn't getting any younger. I think he's still top 5 in the league, obviously.
Easy.
But, I think there needs to be some things done in that offense. And then defensively, they were up and down. They had some injuries at the beginning of the year, but they were pretty healthy for that round.
Yep.
So, I don't know. There needs to be some changes. I think they'll be right back there, but again, it's got to be able to get over the hump. I think they'll figure it out, though. I think they'll find a way.
Yep. The other side, 2 NFC teams, 2 NFC East teams. Start with the Giants. Kind of same story. They have their coach. That's the guy.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing what – we just talked about 3 teams. It's amazing what the consistency and the greatness at the head coach position can do. Clearly, he's the right fit. I can't see Saquon going anywhere. I think he's staying. The bigger question is, what the hell do they do with Daniel Jones? Yeah. After that win against Minnesota, it was a no-brainer. He's the guy. After that game against Philly and the way it went down, I don't think his numbers looked too bad in that game, but lopsided score, division rival, and kind of what you just talked about, getting over the hump. If the Giants want to get back there, I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy, but I think – and as a Commanders fan, I hope they keep him.
Yeah. If you're a fan of the NFC East, I would probably agree. So this is what I knew this was going to happen, right? I was confident in the Eagles. I know that the talent level on that team is just way above the Giants. Like, the Giants weren't even expected to make it that far. They weren't even expected to make the playoffs at all. Mm-hmm. So props to them for getting that far. I got to give it where it's due. But, yeah, they've got a lot of things to work on in terms of free agent signings, and hopefully they figure out the draft. They did okay this year. Mm-hmm. But defensively, they've got to get better. And then, we're talking about Saquon and Daniel Jones. It's crazy how those 2 games can change Daniel Jones' contract literally like that.
Yep.
So, it's tough. I feel like they almost have to give him like a 2-year contract or something, maybe something short.
Yep.
Give him another chance, see what he can do, just because of the year he had. And then I think they want to bring Saquon back. I'm not a big guy on keeping running backs too long because I think that it's just a crazy drop-off as they get older. They just take so many hits. But, Saquon looked like Saquon this year. He was carrying that offense for a good chunk of the year. They've got to figure some stuff out. They've got to get wide receivers that can stay healthy. Obviously, some guys prove themselves, but they need a little more talent on both sides of the ball. So I think they'll be in the mix, though, with Brian Dable there. Yeah. I think they'll figure out a way. They're a scrappy team. I think they'll just get better in terms of talent. So
yeah, they're over-under for wins at the beginning of the year. I think it was like 6.5 or 7. Wasn't anything crazy. They get 9. They get the playoff spot. They win the playoff game against Minnesota. You said they have to get healthier or better on offense with the wide receivers. They need new wide receivers. Yeah. Like, they're throwing the ball to Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins and Daniel Bellinger, and Darius Slayton's the biggest name out of all of them. They have their head coach. They have their running back. The defense is awesome, right? One bad game against Philadelphia. Their defense kind of led the way, got them there, arguably. But Daniel Jones, that game, 15 of 27, 135 and a pick, sacked 5 times. I just, like I said, as a fan of a team and playing him twice a year, I'd rather see him, and I'd rather see Dak Prescott as well. We're going to talk about Dallas in a second. Like, I hope those 2 quarterbacks stay where they are, but I think both teams, they're going to feel out the market. They're going to check in on Derek Carr, especially the Giants.
There's a lot of big ones
out there. I don't think an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady are going anywhere near those 2 teams, but someone like Derek Carr, particularly to the Giants, I think makes a lot of sense. So we'll see. I think they're going to check in, but inevitably I think they both keep their quarterbacks. So transitioning to Dallas, to me, they're the same team as the Giants in terms of like what they have. The defense is there. The head coach, Mike McCarthy, every year they kind of go highs and lows with him. Like, he's fine. He can get the job done. Cooper Rush played this year. He went 4-1 or 5-1 as a starter. Dak led the league in interceptions and missed 5 games. So kind of the same story. I think they should check in on other players and quarterbacks, but at the end of the day, I think Dak Prescott's going to be their week 1 quarterback.
Yeah. So I had the Cowboys last week, and again, it all came down to Dak Prescott because the defense played fine. They didn't really play that bad.
Really well.
Their D-line is great. Secondary played okay, too, for the most part, considering all the weapons they're playing against. So I think Dak, a lot of stuff gets masked because of Kellen Moore, and I think that he runs that offense great. They have so much, so there was a lot of questions, right? No Amari Cooper this year coming in. Gallup was coming off an ACL, came in late during the year, wasn't going to be 100% right away.
Yep.
I think they'll get better. I mean, Kellen Moore may take a head coaching job, and then there's going to be some changes, but it shows like Dak can't really read a defense as well as we think. I think it was just a lot of Kellen Moore putting in the right plays and just him making sure that happens the correct way.
Yep.
But I don't know. I think he will be their starting quarterback. I think he's got one more year, though, to prove that he can be the guy because they were talented enough to take it to the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yep.
So he was the big reason why they didn't. He's going to have a lot to think about. He took full responsibility for that in his interview after the game, which, I don't think that's a bad guy, obviously, but it's going to be interesting. I think that team will be back again. Same thing. That NFC East is strong, so we'll see.
Everyone seems to be getting stronger besides us, but I don't know. He's a couple turnovers in the game, 2 picks.
It's just always
both
the
of them
difference.
are pretty ugly. They weren't exactly close. But to me, and the Cowboys are always going to find a way. They're an accident waiting to happen. They always find a way to mess it up in the playoffs. Like, regardless of how many games he did or did not play, and the turnovers and everything, they still won 12 games this year. So it's tough to, and they went into Tampa and won a game against Brady, regardless of what he is right now. So it's hard to think there's going to be much turnover, but it's just almost year after year, same story. Yeah. Double-digit wins, playoff appearance, maybe a playoff win, and then gone. Yeah, right.
Pretty much.
The NFC Championship game seems so far away from them, and they usually fall a game or two short. So a lot of questions to be answered there over the next couple of months. So let's finally get into the 2 games this Sunday. First game, San Fran, Philly. I think both games we differ. I personally have San Fran and Cincinnati. I have the 2 road teams. You have the 2 home teams, Philly and Kansas City.
Yeah, so those are my original picks, right? When we talked about who we thought was going to get to the Super Bowl was Eagles, Chiefs. If we start with that game because that's the first game, obviously I still think the Eagles have even more talent than the Niners. Obviously, the Niners have been just on a roll currently, but I also feel like the Eagles showed last week they're still hot, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, they were going in, they had a couple losses, right? Hurts wasn't healthy. He looked just fine to me in that game, and that team looked like they didn't miss a beat. So I still have the Eagles winning that game. I think that, they're at home, right?
Yep, at Philly.
So they got the atmosphere. That team's just, I don't know. To me, they're unstoppable, in my opinion.
I'd love to disagree with you. I'm sticking. So my original picks also were San Fran against the winner of Buffalo, Cincinnati, and we're still rocking with that. I'm not changing anything. I did not like how Brock Purdy played last week, particularly in the first half, how he started. He seemed a little, nervous, jitters, the yips, whatever you want to call it. He looked a little bit more like a third-string quarterback and the last pick in the draft for a reason. He's still a rookie. I, amongst other people, tend to forget that because he's 7-0 as a starter.
Yeah, he just looks so poised all the time.
The team hasn't lost in 3 months. They've won 12 in a row. I'm hoping the talent around him at wide receiver and tight end and in the backfield and also on the sideline and Kyle Shanahan could beat that Eagles team. Yes, they did better against the Giants than I thought, but they were also on cruise control from the second quarter.
Yeah.
So, yes, Jalen looked good. He looked healthy. That's the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. The team was clicking on all cylinders. They play in a Giants team that isn't built to win from behind. They go down 2 touchdowns. The way they play, they're not made for that. But regardless, they looked awesome. They're hot. They're great. They're going to be tough. I'm going to stick with what I got. And Brock Purdy and that Niners team, what I don't like also is I think 3 big names sat out practice yesterday. I think Debo, McCaffrey, and Mitchell. It's probably just precautionary.
Yeah, it's probably just rest related, but yeah, I get you.
So I think everything's falling into place for Philly. I think we're in for 2 awesome games this weekend. Obviously, I think the second one has a little bit of the edge in terms of the history and the Bengals and the Chiefs and everything and Burrow. But it'll be interesting. We both got this is good. We're on different sides of the coin. So we're rocking Philly, we're rocking San Fran. Last game, Cincy and Kansas City, Anthony alluded to it, playing at Burrowhead, which I don't think I love as a guy who wants the Bengals back in the Bengals. There's a level of confidence, and then it's like cockiness and arrogance.
So much.
I don't love it. I do like backing the team that's going up against a team whose starting quarterback is basically playing on one leg.
Yeah.
I mean, it is Pat Mahomes. If anybody can do it, it's him. He said he came back to practice and he felt better than he thought he would, so I'm sure he's going to be just fine. But regardless of his health, I still like this Bengals team is just on a mission. Nothing bothers Joe Burrow. When he came out of LSU, I did not like him at all. I thought he was arrogant, smoking his cigar in the locker room after a win. I just thought he was very, very arrogant. I mean, rightfully so. But I didn't love him. These last couple of weeks, I guess after the game against the Bills that got postponed, I kind of found a new love and respect for the guy. And then he just it doesn't matter to him. Like the snow, the atmosphere, going into Buffalo, like going into Kansas City.
He did good.
He's the closest thing to being someone who has Pat Mahomes' numbers. 3-0 against them. I think it's going to be 4-0. I think this team is going to lift the Lombardi Trophy when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that. I was big on the Chiefs just because Mahomes is Mahomes. That high ankle sprain is not great, obviously, because he likes to move around. He's not a mobile quarterback, but that's how he makes the plays, is when he's scrambling out of the pocket and just finding ways to get the ball down the field. So it's so funny because now I've been seeing all over the internet, right? There's like 5-second videos of him walking off the stage. Like, oh, he's not limping. He looks great. And he's like jogging on the field. It's like, oh, I don't see a limp.
Yeah.
It's funny. So I'm sure it's still going to bother him. I'm sure there's still going to be like, after that first hit, he's going to feel it a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure they're going to have him ready. He's going to be taped up. I'm sure he's going to have everything to get him ready. But yeah, I'm still going to obviously I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. I'm going to stick with my guns because I want to see that happen. But now I'm thinking, like, if they even make the Super Bowl, I feel he might win in that game. But I'm still going to stick with the Chiefs. I'm going to go all the way to the end with Mahomes. I think that game's still going to be awesome, even with him hobbled. Just because, I don't know, something about the Chiefs. Their defense is never great. Like, their secondary really is not very good. Mm-hmm. But for some reason in the playoffs, it's like they flip a switch. Yep. Chris Jones on the D-line's just making plays all the time. They find a way to get turnovers. Like, it's crazy how different they look. Mm-hmm. I think that game's going to be close. That might be like a field goal game. I could see like an OT, and then it's great now they have the new rule, right, where both teams get a chance no matter what, so it's not like that Bills game last year.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my guns. We're going to go Mahomes. I think he'll find a way, and it's going to be one of those like flu games, like with the high ankle sprain. I think it'll be great.
Yeah. So the last two games, Bengals-Chiefs, Bengals have won 27-24.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stick with that exact prediction. Third time's the charm. I'm going to go Bengals 27-24, and I'm going to go Niners. I think that's going to be a defense heavy run. I'm going to go like 24-20 Niners.
Okay, so I'll go for that NFC game. I'll go Eagles. I'm going to go 31-24. I think they're going to score. I think they're going to find a way. I think they have all the reasons to, like, they have everything. Run game, pass game, Hurts running. It's just so hard to stop. And then for that Chiefs game, I'll probably go Chiefs 30-27. I think they'll be able to score. Thing about that Bengals team, though, it's even crazier, is their defense is even better than it was last year. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. It's going to be tough. That's going to be a tough one. I think they're going to be great games, though.
Yeah, definitely two best games of the year, and rightfully so. Championship game, Super Bowl on the line. Comment below your winners, predictions, Super Bowl matchups, and we'll be back next week talking that Super Bowl matchup.